What's up, guys? Hope y'all are good. Man, I found some really good information a couple months ago. I was talking about destabilization. It was just something that kind of stuck with me for a little bit. I kind of looked into it a little bit. Um, but yeah, I just realized there's a definite overlap with the whole gang stalking process and manipulation in general. Um, I realized that there was there seemed to be some sort of order to what they were doing. I just didn't understand the why behind it a lot of times. But as I've had more time to reflect and just kind of, look into stuff, it really makes sense why they do what they do. Um, and I feel like this whole topic of destabilization is at its core, the whole process that you go through in the gang stalking. There's a ton of overlap, and it's almost like it's just a different term. So I would like to share some of the things that I had found. So basically, these are destabilization techniques, and it kind of falls into a few categories. I think I'll maybe just do one at a time. Otherwise, it'll just be too much information to chew on. This is something you need to think about and hopefully be able to recognize some of these things that are happening to you. Being able to put a name to what's going on for me helps me to order my thoughts around it. And I think, that's kind of one of the tactics, and we'll get into that, is just getting you so out there in your thoughts and thinking that it's hard to have any organized thoughts or understanding of what's going on, right? So destabilization techniques, there's an order, a structured order to how this can work in an individual's life. And obviously these are things that are used for evil, and I'm only speaking about this stuff to have an understanding about those who are going through it. But manipulators in general use these same type of tactics, so you're going to be able to see some if you've ever been in bad relationships or around really manipulative people, you're going to be able to see some of these things shine through with what I'm going to share. So these are specific tools, strategies, tactics to make someone mentally off of balance, get them off their a good mentality. It's going to destabilize them mentally, emotionally, socially, with the goal to make the person more vulnerable to influence or to control them, right? So the destabilization is a process of weakening a person's mind, emotional state, and social state as well, right? Because the weaker the person is in those areas, the more that you can control them. So that's why I'm saying manipulators will do this. Narcissistic personalities are going to use these tactics, and I don't think it's something that they study to be able to do. I mean, that's kind of next level, but I believe it's a spiritual issue as well, right? So the first category of these destabilization techniques would have to do with cognitive disruption. So that's in your thinking. So one of the tactics or the methods that they would use would be an information overload. So that would be similar to, you being on a computer or a phone, having a bunch of windows open, a bunch of calls going on, maybe there's music playing, you're downloading something, and it's just so much at once, right? And it's just clogging up the system. Well, same thing, same idea with your brain. It's like just an overload. And one thing I've seen happen that was really weird was something that they call word salad. And I didn't know that was a thing, but I had this happen to me a couple times where someone was saying so much, but there was almost no takeaway to it. It just felt like it was psychobabble, you know? And it just left me feeling really, really confused. So the information overload is going to be one of the tactics that they use that has to do with, you know, your thinking. I forgot to say one thing, guys. The reason that this one's going first is, you know, generally this will be like the first destabilization layer is in your thinking. So the goal is to overload, confuse, or undermine someone's ability to think clearly, right? So that's the goal of the person or people carrying these things out. And the reason that they would be doing that is to start relying on an outside source, right? So when someone gets so beat down in their thinking, they want to have an outside source to think for them, right? So I think that's the goal with this, is to like disrupt someone so much mentally that they have to rely on someone else. So if you're the person who's doing that, or the people that are doing that, your ultimate goal is to take away their ability to think properly and be able to process things, right? Process your thoughts in an orderly way. So if that's taken away, you're gonna try to hand that control over to someone else, right? So the bombarding with the data can show up in different ways, you know. So that would be kind of specific to each person, but it can be like, you know, excessive communication, you know, a bunch of things happening at once, right? So you don't know what to do. You know, the effect of all that would be mental fatigue. So it's wearing you down. You start slipping in your ability to remember things or key details. You start getting sloppy in your thinking. And then, you know, if you can't remember anything or you're missing details, you're going to look to other people for that help, right? So you're setting yourself up, you know, for a manipulator to take advantage of that, right? And this isn't like normal thinking, guys. This is like dark. This is like, manipulation is like a dark way to operate, right? Ungodly, like, yeah. All these things are kind of deep, but I'm hoping this can shed a little bit of light on something for you guys. So basically, the psychological part of this would be, you know, you're overstimulating your brain and your working memory until your decision-making quality drops, right? You stop being able to process and make decisions. And if you can't make decisions, you're going to be in trouble, right? Especially if you're around people that are doing this to you. Another method that can be used is contradictory instructions. So it's kind of like when someone tells you work faster but have attention to every detail. You know, it's like, well, what do I do? Do I work faster? You know, so that could be frustrating. That can be frustrating to your thinking. And it also makes it to where success is not an option. You know, if you go too fast, then you're going to miss details. If you focus too much on details, then you can't go fast, you see. So it's setting you up for not being able to get things done either way. It's like, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Another one, let's see. Target is psychological. Okay, so what this does psychologically is it creates helplessness and a belief system that says, I'm going to fail no matter what. You see, so it's like it's conditioning you. And you can imagine over time, you know, these things, this is just the first layer, right? So mentally you get exhausted, and then you start believing that success is not possible no matter what, so it's conditioning you. So gaslighting, this is one that's like pretty talked about nowadays, right? And you're gonna deal with this when you're dealing with manipulative people, narcissistic people. So you know, a method of this would be, say someone is always getting you to question your reality, right? They'll put words in your mouth that you never said, and they'll swear up and down, no, you told me this yesterday. I've had people do that to me. And I know, it's like, I've even had people tell me something and then come back the next day and say, hey, remember when you said this? And they put the words that they said in my mouth, and I'm like, wait, no, you told me that yesterday. I never said that, you know? So it's like, it's weird stuff, right? They're going to alter details, and like I said, they're going to be adamant or even angry if you disagree with them, and they're going to act so sure of themselves, and they're going to sell it, right? Because they want you to start questioning your memory, questioning your judgment, and your ability to think, right? So remember, the overall objective would be for you to get so mentally destabilized that you start giving up control to someone. That's the goal. So when I'm talking about this stuff, that's the big goal in mind. So psychologically, how that's gonna play out is you're going to start distrusting your own cognitive abilities, and you're going to start relying on other people's version of things, right? You're going to be like, well, my memory's bad, and then, you know, you have the manipulator building up the reality they want you to accept, right? The lies they want you to accept. This is one that can be really frustrating, and that is when someone withholds information with the purpose of you to make you not meet deadlines or to fail, right? Not giving you key details that you need to make something happen, or putting a deadline on you last minute. This is like more for it can show up a lot like in the workplace, but even in personal relationships, like stuff's just, they spring something on you, and then there's probably going to be gaslighting with that as well. Like, no, I told you this a few weeks ago, when they never told you this. And this can be done to make you look bad, right? So it's almost like a form of ruining your reputation by making you fail or miss deadlines on purpose, right? And some of this sounds like far-fetched, but when you are dealing with narcissistic people, like, I won't even get into that too much, but man, man, people actually do this type of stuff. It's crazy. So the person who's being destabilized mentally with that tactic would be, the effect of it would be others start to doubt your ability to get something done on time. You know, it's basically throwing mud on your name. And even the person over time, you know, maybe they start doubting their ability to get stuff done. So these are like all gradual effects too. The more that all this stuff is combined, you got to think like if all this is going on in your life, it's going to be a barrage of this stuff. So here, like a why cognitive disruption usually comes first. It can be subtle, you know, or people just assume like I'm really stressed out, I got a lot going, or I haven't been paying attention, you know. Even that's like starting to, you know, you're putting the blame on yourself, right? And like narcissistic people are really good at pushing what you're doing and making you feel guilty for it, right? What's being done to you. That's wild. So this kind of lays the groundwork for the next step would be, which is emotional conditioning. And that's because you're eroding your own self-trust, basically, when this is being done. You know, once you doubt your own perception and you start giving that to other people, you're a lot more susceptible to influence. So I think I'm gonna stop there on this one. If this is helpful, I'll keep going and kind of blend it into emotional conditioning. I just thought this stuff was pretty interesting to put a name to it and understand that there's like actual process to this. You know, like I said, I think a lot of this is maybe spiritual, you know, demonic, or it's learned, and maybe that, you know, maybe that's spiritual as well. I don't think someone's like studying this for the most part. I think that like narcissism is just, they learn and they adapt how to do this. I don't know, it's crazy. But you know, when you're putting yourself at such an elevated position that you're the greatest, right? That's what, you're the greatest and everyone else is below you. You're going to use other people to get what you want. That's what manipulating is, you know. And that's totally just, you want other people to do your will. Like, you don't want people to have their own free will. You want them to serve you. Sounds a lot like Satan, straight up. You know, he wants us to do his will. He doesn't want us to have free will and to make wise choices, or to be able to think and plan and make wise decisions. He wants us to be disrupted in our thinking, in our understanding, and he wants us to give over our free will over to him. You know, he wants us to have his version of reality and trust him with that, right? This is like all this stuff you can point back to, like this is like really demonic, all of it. But yeah, this was number one, cognitive disruption. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. If this was helpful, let me know. I'll make another video, because I'm definitely putting some pieces together with all this stuff too. Anyways, God bless.